I'm here with Ryan and John this week. Gentlemen, how's it going on your end?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah, good here.
Nice. Yeah, Ryan, we missed you for a few weeks, so hopefully
He's back.
I missed it. The first week I had a phone call that would like overlapped half, so I got to join the last half in chat. But last week I was in my garage working on some stuff, so I missed out completely.
It's all good. Well, we're obviously happy to have you back, so that's awesome. So yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be talking about this week. First and foremost, though, as always, we'll start off with we'll go to Ryan. Ryan, how's your week been? Have you done anything good this week? Anything fun or exciting?
This week was another good week manning the advice inbox. So talking to a lot of different people with a lot of different questions. So few calls with customers to work out some ideas with them.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, I often go into just the advice box and just see the questions that kind of come in, because I think it's a really good place to figure out, well, of course, one, what people are asking, but also what content to create based on those questions. If you got 20 questions on the same thing, or even 10 questions or 5 questions on the same thing, it's probably a good indicator that should create some content around it, either a blog post or, like an Ask Octopus video or something like that, or around those lines. Do you do the same?
Yeah, 100%. The advice being on QRF and answering those questions is like a big source of the Ask Octopus videos, either if it's coming in that way or with customers I work with directly. But like you said, if it's repeatable content, we also have on help.octopus.com the knowledge base area. So if you find, or if I find myself answering the same question more than once, it's a good indication that I need to write it down and just share that link.
Yeah, no, for sure. I absolutely agree with that. Cool. And John, how about you? How's your week going?
Been good. Been coding a lot. So writing a lot of Go code, thinking about how APIs are consumed and not just used. And been signing agreements, and we'll have some news to share about that pretty soon. So yeah, all good things.
Nice. Yeah, contracts are always fun. That's it's usually most of my week as well.
Yeah, I read a lot of legalese, so always busy with that, either coding or reading legal.
Yeah, it's two of the best things in the world, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I've been in a similar boat. Working on the Terraform provider, writing a lot of Go code lately for that. Really diving into testing lately. John has ramped up my interest in that for sure. I've been doing a ton of unit testing, integration testing, been doing a lot of mock testing with TerraTest, and also trying to figure out those edge cases. Just wrote a test for the Terraform provider this week. One specifically that kind of caught my eye was the fact that let's say you're creating an account and you are creating an AWS account. You're like, what happens if you accidentally type in the Azure account or username, password, or SSH key or something like that. So I've been writing a lot of tests and stuff around that, which has been really cool. And it's getting a lot of content out in general around testing. Been doing some content on Medium as well, and my own blog posts on my YouTube and stuff like that. So that's definitely been an interest point for me lately. 'Cause it's a really deep topic. I think you can go really deep into what testing you're doing and what testing you actually should be doing. So I think if you look through content like blog posts and videos and stuff like that, and even courses on testing, I feel like a lot of this stuff really scratches the surface on what you can actually be doing in your code to be properly testing and stuff like that. And obviously to be able to write and ship quality code, that's it's always one of the most important things. So nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So we can kick off. If everybody here hasn't been to the Octopus site in a while, we have a branding new design, which came out this week. And it definitely looks, I think, really cool in my opinion. There's a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of FAQs on there. There's a lot of documentation based on what's happening. So it's definitely interesting. I like that we put the Kubernetes stuff up there too. So that's always cool.
Yeah, site designs are always hard. So the team has done a great job of making sure that it maintains that clean heritage that we've had, and tries to surface out some of the things that are most important to our customers. So I've been really pleased with the redesign, and hopefully people will like kind of the new digs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree with the whole site design thing too. I remember I worked at a company that the colors for the design were like a darker blue and a lighter blue, and they completely shifted to like literally what the colors of John's background is right now. And they also shifted their logo as well. So like one of the questions, you know, that I had just like from a just curiosity perspective was like, if you shift that, you know, and then somebody goes to the site, like, is there ever that possibility of somebody being like, oh, I'm not on the right site or something like that? Or just being like, you know, oh wait, is this the same company, or is this the same place or something like that? Or yeah. So I always agree with like that that minimal change to just like spruce things up a little bit.
I don't like your opinion about my background. There's a little bit of an attitude going on there.
No, that's like the wait, what isn't it like from a movie, like those colors, or like from a
yeah, the 80s, before you were born, dude. You're a young one. You don't understand.
Jeez. Yeah.
Don't worry, you'll learn. Don't worry.
I do like, I think they've been on the main page for a while, but I always like calling out the getting started, the build your own stack tutorials that we have. Like that's still a really cool thing that we have available that still kind of blows my mind, that you can go in and pick a lot of these and get with the videos and with like a text tutorial to.
Interesting story behind this. The gentleman who worked on this, his name is Matt Casperson. He actually auto-generated a lot of the scripts for this sort of thing. So when you go and you click on read tutorial, this video walkthrough section is actually driven through a script that he wrote. And he actually did this for a lot of that, a lot of the sort of permutations, if you will, of these drop-down lists. So a lot of the demos you're seeing are driven using automation, which is, I guess, a theme of DevOps. So we're kind of eating our own dog food there, but just an interesting story behind how we generate these videos.
Yeah, the videos it's Selenium. Is it Selenium driving them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. And he's got a link there to the test drive VMs. I shout those out as often as I can, because if you're new to Octopus, or perhaps not new to Octopus, but you know Kubernetes is new to you and you want to have a low friction way of spinning something up to test, there's some options there.
Yep. Yeah, we've been pretty successful doing these sorts of things as well, especially around Docker. Michael and myself have been using those quite extensively for integration testing of the Go client and Terraform provider that we're building.
Yeah,
so
I don't think I've ever seen that on another site before, where like it has it all lined up like that on the bottom, and then you can kind of pick and choose which one you want to use. Yeah, that's interesting.
Awesome.
Sweet. So something else that popped up that's been quite popular this week, if you've been following on Twitter, a ton of people have been writing to us about it on Twitter, is the Kubernetes YAML generator. So this was originally posted on Hacker News, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Paul Stovall, our CEO and founder, decided to just, put this out there. We had actually had this site and domain for a while, but we hadn't told the world about it yet. So basically, this was a tool that we built for generating the YAML that describes your Kubernetes configuration. And anyone who's written YAML for Kubernetes knows that there's a lot of stuff to put in there. And so we came up with this little design here. The intention is obviously to put this out there for testing, because at some future point or eventually, a lot of this stuff ends up finding itself within Octopus Deploy. And so what we decided to do is, instead of worrying about having to hand roll the YAML, we decided to put a tool out there that does it for you. So through this UI on the left side, you can simply pick and choose what you'd like, and then we'll adjust the YAML accordingly. So it's a generator for YAML to configure your Kubernetes clusters, etc.
I didn't notice until you opened your tab that you can switch to the dark theme on this site as well. Like I just completely.
You want the lights on? Is that what you want?
I'm not complaining. I just I guess I missed it because I looked at this the other day when we were talking about it, and I just didn't see the dark theme up there. I was like, that's pretty cool. Just to add that in.
this is one of those things. It's like light meat or dark meat, you know, sort of a Thanksgiving theme here. You know, there's always that people who go one or the other. That seems to be the trend. There's no one in between. So there's got to be a gray theme, I guess, at some point.
Oh yeah, that would be my theme, the gray theme.
Awesome. Battleship Gray.
No, this actually is a really cool tool. I remember looking at this when I first joined Octopus, and I was like, man, this makes everything so much easier because honestly, I mean, if we're all being real with each other, nobody likes to write YAML. I don't think so.
Speak for yourself. Okay, I love it. Yeah, there were some interesting comments on Hacker News. People were like, you know, this is great, thanks a lot, to this sucks, why are you guys putting this out there, to I use different tools for this, but thanks anyway. So anyways, just something to put out there. You know, and if you find that it's something that you need, then please feel free to use it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I was actually really surprised. Like I felt like every time, because in our Slack org, we have a channel just to see who ats us and stuff on Twitter, and that's like been the trend this week, has been like everybody saying, "Oh, look at this tool on Twitter." So it's obviously been really, really cool to see. And it's also one of those things, like you never know what's going to start a trend, right? Like a simple forum post on Hacker News got a whole bunch of traffic, and so it's obviously really cool from like a content creation perspective and stuff like that.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's the link up there if anybody wants to go in and take a look. It's public facing, so you can obviously go there and start to create your YAML files. Cool. So the next thing that we have here on the list, and this is a bigger list than usual this week, is lots of new API examples. So this is actually really cool too, because I've been doing some stuff around this as well. Creating some examples in Go to create and list certain resources. Like I wrote some stuff this week on how to create and list projects and how to create and list project groups using Go, and just like hitting our API directly and seeing some JSON output coming back, which is awesome. So, and John, I think we had this conversation because you were like, "Hey, I'm doing this." I was like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing this."
That's right. So, yeah, these are just a small set of the resources that are available actually for you to hit on our API. As you know, Octopus Deploy is written as API first. So, the UI client that you use, the CLI, all the tooling, all of it targets the API. And so what we've done here is we've provided some examples of hitting these types of resources with the API, and along with that, providing code examples of how to do a variety of things like create feeds, etc. So we provide examples that target, you know, through a shell. If you're doing a PowerShell, we've also provided it through the client itself, and then finally we've got it in C#. Now, if you're interested at all, you can find all these examples up on our docs section. We have all our docs available up on GitHub, and we have them listed here for you to peruse. If you want to add some examples, feel free to send us a pull request. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're working on the Go client right now, and so I'm intentionally trying to. This design hopefully will become obsolete, because we'll hopefully have all these languages listed very soon for other languages like JavaScript, etc. So we can show you how to actually target the API very concisely and neatly to show how to create feeds, how to create accounts, how to, you know, do all sorts of things that you want to do against the Octopus API.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be working on some Go stuff as well, because I'm obsessed with Go at the moment. And then I'm also going to be working on some Python stuff as well, because we've seen a few requests come in for some Python examples and stuff like that. So that'll be really cool as well. Yes, we'll be able to put a bunch of languages up there. Let's see what else. Oh, so new blog articles. I'm especially happy this week because yours truly is in this list. So
there you go. Why don't we talk? Okay, fine. Let's talk about you. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? All right. So you go ahead. What'd you write here, Michael?
Yeah. So this was actually one of the ideas that came to my mind, just because like we've been working on the Terraform provider a lot, and then of course, like, you know, speaking with Mark on the CS team, we've been talking about like what type of API content we want to create and stuff. And I think it's like obviously a really big thing in DevRel and advocacy in general is like helping people hit the API. It's like when you're hitting any platform, like you're hitting an API in one way or another. So this one was just a little example based on like how you can do it with PowerShell. And I do want to do like a little blog series. Like, so this one's PowerShell. I want to do one on Go. I want to do one on Python. And then, get a little 3-part series going out there just to show some differences. This is actually one of the things that I use quite a lot, pretty much daily, is the Swagger. So what I'll do is like, let's say I don't know a specific API endpoint to hit. Like I'll always go to Swagger and I'll just Control F or Command F and just search like, hey, I'm looking for project groups or projects or something like that. And I'll see how the API is hit. And then at that point, like I know what I should be writing in my code to be able to hit that API directly. It's one of the big things that I use a lot.
Yeah. So you can actually see the API. Let me see if I can get this URL right. I think it's /Swagger UI or something to that effect. This is my sort of test instance here. But you can hit that API. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but
do you
there's
have
an API. Swagger.json. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me do that. Let me do this again. Sorry. Apologies for those in the back. So this is the Swagger generated. That's generated the JSON definition. And then I'm trying to remember the URL for the Swagger client. You don't have it here, Michael. This blog.
Oh no, I don't.
Come on.
Quick pull request.
I never use the UI. I always just go to the JSON output because I love JSON so much. I love looking at it. So.
Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to be able to find it here.
If you have the help, the context help menu in your instance, there's a link to the Swagger UI.
This is it. I got it here.
Awesome.
This is watching how sausage is made. All right. So this is the Swagger UI that's generated for your endpoints. So you can see we have a lot of different resources to hit. And this is basically a nice veneer on top of the JSON description. This is the specification for the API, and you can see it's rather long. You're in trouble when that scroll bar gets really small. But basically, this is the UI. If you haven't seen it before, Swagger is sort of an opinionated version of OpenAPI, which is a specification for sort of services. And so you can see we have all these endpoints for you to hit, and they will take a variety of inputs and outputs. And so you can do a variety of operations against these things. And so the intention here is basically to document as much as possible. We are API first, so we generate these out and make them available and then build clients off them. So that's the intention.
Yeah, I do use the Swagger UI. I don't go into the JSON directly. I use the UI mainly, but often I even just find myself going into DevTools and seeing what API calls a certain page makes, because it's the same. What Octopus uses is what the API call is going to be.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, if you have an Octopus instance, you can actually do that. You can actually bring up your DevTools, Control-Shift-I or Control-Option-I, and actually see the JavaScript client doing the talking for you on your behalf when you go ahead and click submit on various operations.
Right.
Usually that's my resort whenever I've done something wrong. I'm missing like one specific thing. I'm like, okay, what's the real call here? What am I missing?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And then I know we had a few other blog posts this week. We had actually a really cool one on HA with AWS FSX. So that was written by our very own Sean Cessna. And this was actually a really cool one as well. I really love this. And obviously, I really love the fact that we're getting more and more AWS content out there. So that's really awesome as well. So if you're in the AWS space and you're using FSX, definitely check this blog post out. It's UI-based, so it's very, very straightforward to follow as well. And then obviously, you can use the AWS Clive for a lot of this stuff as well if you wanted to. And then
good stuff.
Yeah, and then the next one we have is deploying containers to AWS Fargate, again, by our very own Sean. It's really cool as well. Fargate's actually a really cool service, in my opinion. It's got, I guess like the best way to explain it is it's like running containers on serverless if you wanted to. So like if you were in like the Azure space, for example, it'd be like running containers on app services or something like that, which you can do. But yeah, this is I really like their implementation in Fargate. I think it's by far probably the best one around in all the cloud providers, just in my opinion, of course.
Oh my God, look how long this is. This is crazy.
A lot of code.
Yeah, I was with the FSX one too. I know we have several customers that do host their Octopus servers in AWS, and with the server edition having HA available at all tiers, like that is a nice option to be able to set it up with
Yeah.
the Amazon file storage.
Nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm actually curious, anybody who's watching at the moment, or if you watch the recording afterwards, I'm curious to know if anybody's running Octopus, like specifically as a container in EKS or something, for example, Amazon's Kubernetes services, or even AKS or something like that. I haven't seen too many people doing that, so I am curious if anybody's actually doing that in a dev UAT or a production-based environment. So have you heard anybody doing that?
Yes, but I'm not entirely sure if it was AKS or not, or EKS. I think AKS is the Azure one.
Azure one, yeah.
I think I've heard of people using AKS. I'm not sure about EKS, but I've definitely talked to customers that are. It may even be their own like self-hosted Kubernetes.
Right. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, it's that's quite interesting as well. And if everybody who's watching hasn't seen yet, we do have Docker images up on Docker Hub. So you can literally spin up an instance of Octopus right in a Docker container if you wanted to.
That's what I'm using for my local instance. I've moved to Docker with the Linux image.
Yeah. So we're using that for the Terraform provider and the client as well. So like when we do any type of testing, we're literally spinning up an Octopus instance and doing our testing against an actual Octopus server, and we're using the image here to do that. It's very quick and straightforward, of course. And then once we're done with it, it just gets tear down, and that's it.
Got a quick question in the chat here from Crow Herrick. Says, I found it helpful. I think he's referring, or he or she is referring to the Kubernetes YAML generator. Saying we now use customize.io. However, have you ever played with it? I have not. I don't know if you guys have.
No, I haven't.
So this is customize here. So this looks to be something that you install, and then you've got kube control, integration. So that looks okay. Nice.
Awesome.
Yet another tool to throw into the pile of arsenal.
Nice. Yeah,
awesome.
I gotta check that out. Haven't heard about that. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Question.
Sweet. So from a videos perspective, I'm going to kick it over to Ryan to see what he's been doing from an Ask Octopus perspective.
Oh yeah, so this is the video from last Friday. Bob stepped up and filled in for me last week, and we got a new host for Ask Octopus. That one's an interesting one. So this one's about creating release artifacts and uploading them to a release with the API. So say you run your unit test. I think this was the exact case from a customer that had asked, like you do your unit test in TeamCity, for example, or Azure DevOps, and you want those unit test reports to be available with the deployment that goes out. So you can actually track that in Octopus as well as your build server. So he's using the API to push those artifacts up directly from the build server.
Nice. That's awesome.
And this week I did I remade an older one because I've seen the question kind of pop up here and there, but we're talking about how to use the right highlight commandlet in your task logs to pull some information up into the summary and create links that you can easily click on in your task logs.
Nice. That's awesome. Really cool stuff. So yeah, so you get a lot of the motivation from that, from like questions and stuff that come in as well, right? Like that's probably literally why it's called Ask Octopus.
Yeah, it's exactly that. We actually started it early last year, Bob, Derek, and I, because we were just constantly talking to customers, constantly answering those advice emails, and we started turning them into videos. It started out as just a Zoom recording with the three of us, just kind of like what we're doing now, live streaming and talking and showing, like kind of explaining it to each other. Nice. And then, as time goes on, priorities change. There's different initiatives, and I think the webinars became really big, and Ask Octopus kind of dwindled a little bit. So I've been on a mission this year to bring it back.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of Ask Octopus, Ryan and I were talking this week, and I kind of had a few ideas that like didn't come in from questions, but just things that I found interesting, and hopefully others would find interesting. And one of the things that I was thinking about was like certain deployment scenarios. So like, or even if you're not deploying, like let's say you want to automatically build a Go package or something like that using Octopus, how would you do that type of thing? And then we started talking about a series that we used to do called Will It Deploy? Rob Pearson used to run that, I believe. And that was something that, we used to do and then we haven't done. So Devrel or myself and John and stuff, we're going to pick that up. I'm going to kick off a few. The first one that I want to kick off is the can you build a Go package with Octopus and stuff? And then
Awesome.
Will it deploy type of thing. And yeah, I think that's really cool just from like a scenario perspective, because it's like if you Google stuff like, how do you deploy this or how do you deploy that? And you go into like Stack Overflow or Reddit or something, like there's always so many different ways to ship code and ways that like a lot of times I'll be reading forums and I'm like, oh, I never thought about doing it that way. So I thought that would be really cool to do that. The will it deploy, or like, it'll be called will it deploy, but we can also do like, will it build, will it test, will it do this, will it do that type of thing. So I think that'll be really cool. So yeah, we're gonna start on that next week. I blocked out like 3 or 4 hours on Monday to kind of start just kicking that off and just like getting my mindset around like the different PowerPoint slides and stuff and what it should look like, what it should be built as, stuff like that.
I don't like our stance on this. Will it deploy? There's a lack of confidence there. I think we should say it will deploy, let's deploy it. Yeah, exactly. No question marks.
It reminds me of will it blend. So like there's an aspect of maybe it won't.
Yeah, that was an awesome video at the end. Nope, it didn't.
It didn't.
broke it.
I'm a big fan of will it deploy. Like those videos have been so helpful for a lot of people, and they're like very, very well done. And there's like, especially since we made the last one, there's a ton of stuff out there that we could throw into the will it deploy blender. There's Blazor's come up recently with a customer I've been working with.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, that's and Ryan, you were saying that you were working a lot with Blazor last week as well, right? For that specific scenario.
Well, I wasn't building a Blazor app. I was taking a pre-made sample, and it was more trying to figure out some specific deployment conditions. So deploying it as a sub app to a existing website in IIS.
Awesome.
There's a few things you have to do to the web config and to the base path for the Blazor app to make it work correctly in that scenario.
Nice, that's awesome. And I know. Before Octopus, you were a .NET developer. Did you do a lot with Blazor, or no, not really?
No, I think Blazor is too new. It's too new past my .NET days. It was mainly ASP.NET, MVC, Web API.
Nice. Classic.
Going back to ASP Classic and VB6 also.
Sweet.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, I can't wait when this show is all over, so to speak, metaphysically speaking, and they dust off the rust encased hard disks. I can't wait for what people will think about what we used to code in. You're like, ugh, God, look at this thing. I found it. It was like, it's got something technology called ASP and VB6. I don't know what this is. God, how did they program this?
It's still running, but everybody's afraid to touch it. It's like no one will change it.
Yeah. So another highlight that I just wanted to mention was Matt Casperson has done a few support workshops. These were originally intentioned to be internal, but we thought, what the heck, let's just go ahead and publish them. So these were things that kind of bring some engineers up to speed on things that they may not be aware of. So his most recent one covers where do the AWS, Azure, Helm, Kubernetes, Terraform, your kitchen sink tools come from. So he kind of walks through those sort of integration paths, talks about how they work, how they kind of integrate with our stack, etc. So for those folks who are working with those, looking and also working with Octopus Deploy, they may be interested in that sort of session. It's very informal, but kind of gives you the broad strokes.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, I was going through our YouTube recently this week, and we actually have like a lot of really cool stuff on there.
Yeah,
I didn't realize like how far back it went, but I just kind of kept scrolling, and I was like, yeah, a lot of really cool stuff on here. And I started to watch a few different videos to figure out a few things that I was trying to do in step templates. And big shout out to Ryan. Thank you for taking the time yesterday to show me step templates. That was very fun as well.
They're just as a point of reference, there's our first one ever posted, Octopus 2.0 Part 1, an introduction.
It
So
still gets a lot of views too.
Oh,
Yep.
wow, 13,000. That's awesome.
look at this. Look at this. All right. So your server's here and you want to do this and you want to do that. Perfect. Oh, look at that. Hot. The NuGet Package Explorer. I remember that. That was a long time ago. Should go through some of these just like, oh, we're going to watch how to install Octopus. Awesome.
Oh, like Mystery Science Theater style.
Yeah, this is next finish. This is how every piece of software is ever installed back in the 90s and early 2000s. It's the click, 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 click. Yes, accept the EULA. Yes, install. Yes, destroy my hard disk. I don't care.
Oh, that's interesting. I recorded a updated version of this recently.
Okay.
The team has been going through, it's not in the top yet, but we've been going through and recording some kind of fundamentals of Octopus, like getting started, what's a project, what's a variable, also like how to install the server, how to install Linux tentacles, Windows tentacles, things like that. It's all, yeah, except the EULA, it's fine. Don't read it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went back and looked at like what Octopus looked like in the beginning to now, and it is such a really difference.
Light and day.
Did you find
sorry,
the purple?
day and night, excuse me. What am I saying? Light and day. Sorry.
I thought you were coming up with a new phrase, John. That's why I didn't say
I
it.
know, right? It's the Aussie in me. Sorry. All right. Cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because like if you guys go back and like look at the YouTube videos and stuff like that and see, because like Paul made it specifically for like a problem that he was trying to solve. Like that was where Octopus came from, and then look at it now.
Yep, for sure.
So yeah, step templates. I wanted to discuss that because that's actually something that Devrel is trying to take on too. Where with library, I know that like I think we showed it last week as well.
Yeah.
I've actually like I knew about step templates, but I never actually tried to create one. And Ryan and I were working together yesterday on that because I wanted to create one specifically for if you're bringing in a Go package and you want to build it, but like I wanted Octopus to just auto build it for me. So just like run Go build in the package that it's bringing in, and like you don't have to do anything else; it just automatically does it for you. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. And if you want to take a look at like building step templates, I think it's under library in the portal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like in the Octopus portal itself. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. If you want to go and you can like literally create your own step templates, and you can either push them out to the community or you can just keep them internally, which is really cool.
Yeah, we integrate these. If you haven't seen these before, again, I'll use my my test instance. Oh no, I'm not signed in. Okay, never mind. But basically, these surface out through the UI, so you can actually see them, integrate them, and you can just integrate them directly. If you're at all interested, we have a community library that you can submit to. We currently have 430 community contributed templates, and these range from the very simple ones to checking a .NET version to very complex ones like S3. I guess S3 would be okay. But there's a whole variety of ones in here for cloud providers, for integration with Chocolatey, for updating databases, to file system operations, to integration with Slack, to integration with Teams, managing IIS, managing Kubernetes, managing MySQL, etc., etc., etc.
Nice. Yeah, there's a ton of really, really cool stuff out there, and you can obviously install those in any Octopus instance as well, and use those as like you would with standard steps. Nice. It's awesome. Yeah, I thought that process was interesting when we were going through it yesterday, and it's pretty straightforward. Like once you get in there and just do it the first time or have somebody walk you through it. So when I was first doing it, I was just like, wait, what? And then started to kind of go through it. So yeah, and we have some blog posts out there as well that help us that can help you set up your first step templates and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit different way of thinking about this steps, because when you're adding it to a process, you're really a consumer of a step, and you're like, I'm filling out all these form fields that Octopus has or somebody else has decided to provide for me. But when you're building that step, you really have to think, what parameters do I need to provide to the end user of this? And if the end user's me, it's like, whatever, it's the bare minimum. But if you're going to put it out in a community library, you may want to provide as many parameters to match the command that's being called as possible.
Right. Okay. That was where my confusion was. Like when I was talking around, I was like, wait, so I'm taking one and I'm importing it into another, and then I'm creating like a step section inside of the step. And yeah, so but once you iron out those details, it's a little bit more straightforward. Cool. So yeah, Ryan, I wanted to bring up. I know that you were talking about the Terraform provider plus config as code and like having the ability to sync the two Octopus instances, right?
Yeah, this is a question that comes up a lot, and it's come up on a few calls with customers recently who are either looking to upgrade or they're just asking about the new feature and if it will help with this. And the scenario usually comes in when customers have a PCI environment, and they've because of that, they have separated their server into multiple instances. They have their dev and UAT on one Octopus server and production on another Octopus server. The same projects, different environments, different targets, but the same projects, same step templates live in both places. And it's kind of a hassle to keep those in sync. You can do it with the API. That's a lot of API scripting to manage. You can do it with the import and export functionality to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's like, it's kind of thinking about with these new features, these new tools coming on the horizon, using the Terraform provider. Okay, you can use that to script out a certain portion of your Octopus configuration with the Terraform provider and then sync that across multiple instances. So really the keeping in sync is now in this Terraform script.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. And people are using the provider specifically for that?
Not yet that I know of, but it comes up in conversation because I do put the disclaimer, not in beta yet. But we do use it. Octopus Cloud uses the Terraform provider to spin up new instances.
Yep.
So it is usable, but it's not, like I said, not beta yet, but it's something to keep an eye on that I let customers know about. And the other piece of that is config as code, which has the public alpha, in a few months. That's another place where you'll be able to sync your process. You can point multiple projects in the same instance or projects across different instances to the same Git branch or the Git repo and promote changes that way.
Nice.
So I think with these two tools coming, it's going to maybe not completely answer that story of how do we keep two instances in sync, but I think it's going to make it a lot better.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. It's been an interesting week. I was actually working on what we call it the hub to deploy Octopus deploy cloud instances and stuff as well. And I've been working on that with internal engineering. And it's really cool. We were able to go through and we were able to see builds succeed and stuff like that. The one thing that I actually did want to bring up, and this is an interesting just concept of Terraform in general, because by definition, Terraform is mutable. So what that means is that it creates net new by default. That's by design. So we were going through and all the builds and stuff, they completed successfully. All the tests went through. We were all good to go between us and internal engineering to be able to deploy those cloud instances. Now, the one thing that we did see, I was looking into it a little bit this morning, was that let's say you have an existing resource, and this is actually something real. It's something that's literally going on right now. Let's say you have an existing resource, and in this case, it was for accounts. Now, what we've done is instead of having one account resource for everything, Azure, AWS, username, password, etc., we split them up so it's easier to use. Like now you have a resource for Azure. Now you have a resource for AWS for SH key, username, password. So now what happened was because Hub, when we were deploying it, was using the old resource, the old account resource, and we changed it to the new Azure resource. What Terraform is trying to do is when it tries to upgrade or update, it's saying, no, this resource already exists. And previously, it was just automatically updating. And now the reason why that's happening is because the immutability of Terraform by nature. So it's seeing a new resource, but it's not actually new because it's there, but it's seeing it as a new resource. So it doesn't want to update, it wants to recreate. So that's been a fun troubleshooting effort that we've been working on primarily like yesterday and
You
today.
forgot to say fun with air quotes. There you go.
No, but that's like one of the interesting things about Terraform is like if you're creating something already and you try to go and update it and it's not in your TF state is like your metadata of what the environment looks like. if a resource is new or a resource has changed in some way, Terraform will be like, no, you can't update this. Like, I don't know what this is. So like originally when we were looking at the issue this morning, we thought it was a bug, but like it actually wasn't a bug. It was like Terraform just being Terraform.
Damn you, Terraform.
So how would you do that if I say I have an existing Octopus instance and I want to create a Terraform script for its current state? Is there a way to sync that? Do I have to kind of script out everything that exists and run it, or is there a way to manage that?
Yeah. So what happens is, let's say you have like a project that already exists, and then you want Terraform to manage that project for you. It's going to automatically want to recreate that for you. And that's again, like that's the immutability aspect of it. It's not going to go through what you currently have and try to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to consume this. It's literally going to want to create it new, or it's going to say like, hey, this already exists. Like we can't do anything with this. And that's really where your TF state comes into play. And your TF state is like I said, just like metadata of your environment. That's how Terraform knows what you're trying to do. If you're trying to delete, update, create, etc. So the best way around that is you can merge TF states. It's manual and obviously error prone, but that is something that you can do if you're trying to like merge them in together, or try to manage one environment that turned into another environment type of thing. Yeah, that's the yeah. But
I smell another tool.
I was going to. I didn't want to sign anybody up for it, but I was like, it sounds like for an existing project, you would need a way to convert your existing resources into a TF state file.
Yeah, pretty much.
It would be nice if we had a feature that would allow you to say pull down the configuration of your project and then manipulate. Maybe there's a feature coming.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And it really depends, going back to the PCI environment example, it really depends on what needs to be synced. If it's only going to be, I want the steps to be synced, then config as code feature should solve that by itself. You wouldn't necessarily need the Terraform provider. But if you want to go outside of the project resource, that's where the Terraform provider would come in. If you want to sync certificates or sync life cycles, step templates.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I don't get me wrong. I love me some Terraform, but I think that's where I wish Terraform was a little bit different. Like ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager templates, which is infrastructure as code as well, but it's written in JSON and it's mutable. So what that essentially means is, like, let's say a resource already exists and you're trying to manage that resource, but you've never managed it in ARM before. You can still manage that resource. Versus obviously it's the complete opposite with Terraform. So yeah, that's been an interesting troubleshooting effort this week. I think another thing regarding the Terraform provider is I just pushed out a new release. You can see it right on the right side over there. So this is the first release that's been built in a while. And this is like the beta ready candidate, and it just goes over a little bit of like what we've done. There's like 500 something commits in for the beta. So like I obviously couldn't put all those, but I put the key ones in here. So if you are interested and you want to bring this down and check it out, you can install it here from all of the different or for all of the different operating systems, Linux, Mac OS, Windows, stuff like that. Yeah, so we're close. We're right there.
Yeah. Just so folks know, it's used as it's not supported, etc. This is just a project of love at the moment. We're trying to get it to the state where we feel comfortable with it. A little bit pulling back the kimono. We actually use this internally for standing up instances of Octopus Cloud. So when you go ahead and create a new Octopus Cloud instance through octopus.com, we're actually using a variety of technologies, including Terraform, to do some of that heavy lifting. So we're trying to eat our own dog food here, and so we're also being very careful about how we get this thing built, because obviously if we break this, we don't want to, of course, but if we break this, a lot of things will break. So use it at your own discretion, but if and when we're ready, which we feel like we're getting close, we'll certainly make it available as a beta.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and then we're also going to be writing some content and stuff around it as well. So we're going to be pushing out, just different blog posts and stuff on like, how you can do X with it, how you can do Y with it, stuff like that. And then we'll also be pushing out a blog post on like where does the Terraform provider end, and then where does config as code pick up. So that'll be an interesting one as well, and it'll put things into perspective because we've gotten a few questions about that. Like, hey, if we're using the Terraform provider, do we need to config as code, and vice versa and stuff like that. So yeah, that should be an interesting one for sure. And with that, does anybody else have anything that they wanted to discuss this week?
We've got one more thing, which is we're going to
weekly contest.
Yes, that's right. So let me see if I can switch over here and just do this quickly. And I'm going to share a new screen here, which is the Slack window. If I can find it. There we go. All right. So for those of you who are aware, we have our Slack channel, which is the Octopus Deploy community. You can go ahead and sign up. And we've got a lot of people on there. Recently, Michael posed a challenge saying, please tell us your best on-call war story. And since it's a 3-day holiday weekend, it seems appropriate, right? That's typically when things break, is when servers can smell. They like, I don't sense any humans nearby. I'm going to go ahead and break. So we thought we'd just kind of review some of these quickly and vote on war stories. So Derek's got one here just quickly. I worked on call for my first IT job, remote ordering system, rest of IT equipment staff overnight, really never had any problems. Got a call at 3 a.m., always a good time. From a single person on night shift. Person said the printer was broken. Asked them if it was a large industrial printer. Got told no. There was their desktop. Wasn't on call for this, but thought I'll be a nice guy and help. Asked the person to test the printer by printing a test page. You could do that on the printer through a button. This was to check if it was a local or printer server issues. Didn't print. Asked if there was paper in the printer. Got, oh, hey, yeah, thanks for fixing that. So person had access to about 35 other printers as well. That's always a confidence building thing, right? Knowing that someone who's critical in running the day-to-day infrastructure doesn't know that there's paper in the printer. So there you go.
That's all. It's at on the level of like turn it off and on again. Is there?
Yeah.
It's like those are the easy fixes. Like is your Ethernet
sure.
plugged in? Like I feel right. like sometimes I ask a question in Slack and I have to immediately like I don't delete it. I'll strike through it and just be like, no,
I know.
Me.
I know. It is what it is, I guess. I mean, believe it or not, there's an old operating system I used to target called BOS, and in there was two APIs that I always enjoyed looking at and chuckled. One was is computer on. That was an API that would return a Boolean, and then the other one was is computer on fire, and that would determine the internal core temperature of the CPU, and if it exceeded a certain threshold, would say yes. So another one here from Scott. One from Scott here. 2 weeks out of a month, pretty much on 24/7. We have it so we cover each other's night time zone, but 9 times out of 10 still get woken up as the other person hasn't picked up the phone. Classic scenario. We're using PagerDuty. PagerDuty is great if you're doing on-call stuff. Usual phone calls are failed builds, failed deployments, infrastructure issues. That sounds interesting, and it also sounds familiar. The best one I got was a phone call from PagerDuty around 3:30 in the morning. Say that our infrastructure was down, including Azure DevOps server. That's not good. Started looking around, alerts coming in at around 1 o'clock. Then started logging into the servers, trying to find, keep getting that can't find the server. After further investigation, turned out that Corp IT team was doing Windows updates and had taken down all their DNS hosts at the same time with no failover. So the common phrase I've always used is if it's not DNS, it's DNS. Another one was, again, our Corp IT had brought down a server host for updates, not realizing as they didn't monitor it, that the uninterruptible power supply was on the blink. As soon as we tried to reboot it, it wouldn't because the UPS failed. When that brought the network down again in the data cupboard, took them about 7 hours to fix the problem as they didn't have anyone near the office. That's classic. I mean, you bring down servers unexpectedly, for example. You got to do massive reboots. You got to do defragging of hard disks. You got to configure networks. You've got to NIC values, etc. It's hard. This one's a nice. We got a twofer here from Scott for that one. So thank you, Scott. Bob said, I worked at a place where the on-call phone was paged anytime an overnight job failed. about 900 SSIS packages. SSIS is SQL Server integration services. It's basically a way of migrating, your data, schemas, etc. That's in SQL Server, and 300 scheduled tasks. 99.999% success rate still meant that at least one job failed. Awesome. The kicker was that my team didn't create the jobs. They only had to ensure that they ran successfully. Perfect. So you could have swallowed I'm thinking already, you could just swallow the error and say, yep, all good. And about 50% of them relied on a file being created in a file share at a certain time by the data processing team. Right before Memorial Day. It's like classic. Right before Memorial Day weekend, the data processing team did a deployment which changed the schedule and didn't tell anyone. Files were being created 20 to 45 minutes later than usual, paged multiple times over the weekend, and all I had to do to get up, wait a few minutes, and then rerun the job. So another classic one there. All right. Last but certainly not least, Marty. Last year, I was just taking over an on-call shift from my manager who had left town to attend a wedding, a novel concept nowadays. Friday morning, I was wakened at 5:30 in the morning by Ops Genie, another great tool, just having to complete a complete party with a flood of alerts coming in. If it was to be believed, every part of our infrastructure was going down, coming back up, then going down again. So I jumped out of bed, ran over to my computer, and started digging into it since it could be anything. But given the volume of alerts, it probably was some core infrastructure. It turned out that one of our firewalls in our on-prem environment had up and died, but the failover wasn't exactly graceful. This is classic. Even worse, my manager was the only other engineer with any networking experience. There was about 85 to 90 seconds of downtime while a failover occurred, during which every service trying to communicate with each other freaked out. Yep. No one ever writes any catches or any containment code or any sort of contingency. If I can't connect to this service within 5 seconds, I'm failing, and I don't care if I don't care how much you care about that. So, Azure couldn't route in correctly or couldn't route in properly. None of our backend services were reporting back properly, and our alerting software simply couldn't reach anything. It all came back while I was digging through the alerts, and the failover completed. But fair to say, it took over the rest of my day and week. Lesson learned: make firewall alerts be dependency alerts, so we're not parsing through so much noise. The real kicker of all of this was that these firewalls were about 4 months away from end of life, and we had everything squared away to do a replacement. They don't even make the model. But luckily our data center partner, so we just happened to have a few unused devices to make of the same make and model. So we slotted them in and limp along with those old firewalls until we got new ones in place. Took longer than I'm proud of, but another lesson learned. Maybe we did more than one failover test with the new firewalls, a lot more than one. That's for sure. That's awesome. That classic sort of scenario, like I've seen this in a lot of industry verticals where people, they don't update servers. They just buy new hardware, or not new hardware. They buy old new hardware off of eBay to make sure that everything just kind of keeps running. I've seen this in financial. I've seen this in oil and gas. I've seen this everywhere where people are like, look, we don't touch the mainframe, or we don't touch whatever server that thing's running on. We just buy replacement parts for it. No one knows how the code's written. The person who wrote it got hit by a bus, whatever. I've heard everything. So classic stories. All right, guys, what do you think? Scott, Bob and Derek are obviously ineligible, but Scott and Marty are our two votes. What do you guys think? Ryan, I'll start with you.
I have to go back and read Scott's again. That was the DNS. Oh, it's always DNS. That's a strong
DNS.
one.
If it's not DNS, it's DNS. Yep.
I like them. I like them both.
Yeah.
They're both networking related too.
Yes, they're always networking related.
I think the kicker is the 4 month. Was it 4 months from end of life? I'm gonna side with Marty on this one.
All right. One vote for Marty. Michael, what do you think?
Oh, this is a tough one. I haven't felt that it was as close for any of them besides this one. So I got to go with Scott. Here's why. The amount of teams and people not collaborating and working together is just it's just such a phenomenal amount. And it's still wild to me how something like this could occur. Like the IT corporate team, they're doing Windows updates and they're taking down servers, but they know that other teams are using these servers for other services. Sure. And it's 2020, right? Like, how are we still doing this? How are we still not talking to each other? Like, There's Slack, there's Microsoft Teams, there's Skype, there's text, there's Twitter, there's emails. Pick one and just send somebody something for 20 seconds. It literally takes 20 seconds to let somebody know what's happening.
Sure.
Or just like turn off the alerts.
That's right.
You know, for that time frame. So I got to go with Scott's because I
All right.
understand what he's saying.
All right, looks like I'm the tiebreaker. So I'm going to go with Scott. So Scott, you're the winner. And the reason is simple. DNS, networking, all that stuff. Plus the UPS on the blink. That's the kicker for me. So I've seen all those things. And when things go wrong, it typically looks like that scene out of Bugs Bunny where you got the Acme Corp machine and you stick something in on the right side and out the left side comes something. This is classic where just the entire engine falls apart and blows up. So Scott, you have my my empathy and sympathy for you in that time. Marty, great story as well. So, and if you guys have any other stories you'd like to share, please feel free to use the Slack channel we've got there, and you can sign up today. We've got over 3,000 members, and we'll be posting out a new challenge every week.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. Great. Some great side channel commentary here. So Harold thought that Marty D's was hilarious. So yeah, I agree.
Hilarious now, maybe not at the time.
That's right. Always a classic. Awesome.
Well, with that, fellas, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching us ramble on again, yet in another week of OctoChat. It was awesome catching up with you guys. Thank you.
All right.
Everyone.
Stay safe, everyone. Take care.